And let's now talk a little bit about water in San Diego County, because the cost of living everywhere is going up. Housing's going up, gas prices, college tuition, um, insurance prices are going through the roof. Electricity prices are the highest in America here in San Diego. And then water prices are now going to go up, and people are freaking out about this too. 20% increase is what's planned in the next few years with water. So let's kind of break some of this down. So yeah, they're going to go up nearly 20% in the next 2 years. And it's going to make the average single family homeowner bill about $12 more per month. And I read that and I went, that's all? I mean, gosh, granted, we live on 2 acres. And so we have definitely a larger water bill than the average homeowner. But sometimes our water bills, for 2 months are $400, $600. I mean, sometimes even more than that. Gosh, if our rate only went up $12 a month, it would be no big deal. Maybe for some people that they're going to feel the pinch. But people are really upset about this because they kind of think of water almost as a natural, not just a natural resource, but as a human right, which I don't necessarily agree with, but let's talk a little bit about this. So the rate increases for water here in San Diego are going to go up in 3 parts: a 5% hike on December 1st, and then a 5.2% hike on July 1st of next year, and then an 8.75% jump in January of 2025. And that's going to increase prices. Yeah, it's almost 20%. I think compounded, it's a 19.8% jump. And you might be thinking, well, why are they doing this? Well, there's a lot of reasons why. And there's conspiracy theories as to why too. But a big part of it is that most of the water that comes to San Diego is imported, right? We are either getting water from the Colorado River, or in other cases, we might be getting some water that comes to Southern California, from the Sierra Nevadas, and it goes to Southern California water, and it gets wholesale sold, through a couple of layers, eventually comes down to the San Diego water and down to our local water districts. Well, those prices are going up and we're dependent on imported water. That's part of the reason. The other part of this is that they need to upgrade a lot of these aging water pipes. That makes sense, and we've talked a lot about how infrastructure all over America has been crumbling, and you kind of wonder why. And the reason is, well, they're not maintaining it. And even though government revenues are at all-time highs, they still are not spending enough money on maintaining the infrastructure. And it's degraded. And I mean, heck, even here in my house, we have a storm drain that corroded and broke down. And thankfully, the city covers that. That's part of the easement. And the city is in here. Actually, they fixed it. It caused a sinkhole to my next door neighbor. It was kind of crazy. But there's a desperate need for doing a lot of these upgrades. But at the same time, Pure Water, who I show in there on the screen, Pure Water is this initiative in San Diego that converts wastewater into drinking water, toilet to tap. It's creating water that's cleaner than what we get from the Colorado River. I mean, this is a fantastic innovation. And if we can recycle more of our water or manufacture more of our water from our desal plant in Carlsbad, then we won't need to be importing 85 to 90% of the water into San Diego. We can be a lot more self-sufficient, and that's good. So they want to fund more of this Pure Water initiative. That's a big part of the reason. And then the other part of it is that the San Diego Water Department, and you may have seen the news reports on this, where people have not been getting billed. They'll go 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 10 months without getting a bill. And then all of a sudden a bill arrives and it's like $2,000, or something crazy that people are not expecting. And it's because their billing system is such a disaster and they can't keep up with, keeping the billing going, and they've got to fix that. So they've got all kinds of problems with water in San Diego. But when they talked about raising these prices, you can expect it. There's going to be a lot of people kind of whimpering about it and upset about it. And here is one person that spoke to the city of San Diego, and she said, "I sometimes don't have enough to eat, to wash my clothes, to buy shoes that I need because I'm diabetic, or to send money to my mother or my children." Another person who's a registered nurse at the UC San Diego Health wrote this to the city council. Accessing a basic amount of water is not a discretionary purchase decision, and to commodify its use is to show a reprehensible insensitivity to humanity. So, these people, they really take this seriously. The city of San Diego also is planning on putting in more of those smart water meters so they can monitor the meter from a remote office rather than having someone, come to your curb and lift up that concrete lid and look at the odometer to check your water usage. They're going to make those electronic, which I think will be improving the system. But talking about bills, I told you how there's this delay on billing. There are 30,000 water bills in San Diego that are on hold. 30,000. I mean, these guys, they can't even get through all of this. So they're trying to fix all of this and they want to raise the rate. Now, apparently, the water rate hike will raise monthly bills for a single family homeowner in San Diego from $81.07 a month to $93.55 a month as of January of 2025. Now they were going to raise it up to about $103, but they kind of backed off of that. So I mean, what do you think of this? This to me is interesting. Now there's a lot of different thoughts and opinions on this. So you might be saying, all right, the water rates go up, that sucks, right? And there's kind of a water monopoly, right? I mean, it's not like, there are a choice of water vendors with water pipes coming to your house. The government utility runs the water and we kind of get stuck with that. And that kind of ties our hands and it frustrates a lot of us. But I mean, you could import water, you could get water and buy water, you could drill a well, you could recycle water. There's some people that are recycling water that comes off of their rooftop when it rains, and they capture that and they use that for watering their plants and their property. And other people are converting gray water, or the water that comes from, they're essentially their washing machines and dishwashers, purifying that and then using that to water the land, water your grass and lawn. There's some things you can do, but generally speaking, we're kind of stuck. So how do you feel about this? Now, here in my hometown of Poway, there is this, sort of conspiracy theory that I think has a lot of truth to it, as many conspiracies always have a little bit of truth to them, that the city of Poway has been raising water rates, for a lot of these same reasons. The water wholesale rates have been going up. They're putting in new infrastructure here in the city of Poway, a new clear water well, where they bring the water in and it gets purified before it goes into the pipes and down to our house. Because we had that water crisis in Poway a few years ago. So that's causing water rates to go up because of the investment in infrastructure, and the wholesale rates are going up. But there are some people in town, like Chris Cruz, who runs a local Poway Facebook group here. She's always complaining about the water rates, mostly because she sees it as a sleight of hand to essentially raise taxes, because the city government can't raise the sales tax without going to, the voters, can't really raise the property tax. And those are the two primary sources of revenue for the city. And so since they can't generate more money through taxes, or it's very difficult to do that, they can instead just raise water rates. And then that money is kind of goes into it's sort of, what's the right word? It's fungible. The money can move from the water department into the city, and the city council sees over the water district and the city council. And so it's sort of an indirect way to sort of raise taxes. And that's always been one of her pet peeves. There's some truth to that, because that's, the money that they use to fund that comes from the water funds the infrastructure, but it's paying for city government salaries, which normally you think a lot of the sales tax and income tax revenue would do that. So there's some truth to that. But I don't know, in a way though, what's the right way to pay for some of these infrastructure improvements? I mean, do you do a bond and then have it paid, for people years down the road, take on debt? We've seen the $1 billion bond at Poway Unified School District. That's no way to go. Some of these bonds are structured very poorly. But I kind of set aside the idea that this is a shell game and it's an indirect way of setting taxes, raising taxes. That very well may be true. But the concept of paying for what you use makes sense to me. And if our rates have to go up to pay for infrastructure improvements, to me, conceptually, that's reasonable. Now, if the wholesale rates are going up, yeah, that's a problem too. Can't really control that, but I like how the city of San Diego is investing in ways for us to be more self-sustainable with the desal plan in Carlsbad and the water purification, the Pure Water Initiative. And yeah, desal is expensive, that process, but the Pure Water Initiative is significantly less expensive. And I generally like that. I've generally thought that the leadership in San Diego, it hasn't been great on a lot of issues, but on water, they've done all right. I mean, you got to figure with the desal plant, the Pure Water Initiative, they've expanded dams, including at San Vicente. So there's a lot. I mean, parts of California have a real drought, but San Diego, if we were cut off from the rest of the outside world, we'd be able to sustain ourselves a bit. And the more that we can recycle and manufacture water, the less reliant we are on imported water. And I think that could be good. But it's interesting stuff here. I mean, in the end, I think we have to think of this as a sustainability thing, so that we have as much access to water as we can. And we need to let the human mind innovate so that we can radically change the paradigm. So we're not always just depending on importing water from the Colorado River that is getting less and less full, and those water levels are dropping. Instead, we just need to create our own. And I don't mean putting seeds in clouds. I mean converting wastewater, desalinizing ocean water. That's the way to go. So the fact that there's some investment there, no one likes to pay higher rates, but at least they're doing that. And I think that's, given all the other alternatives, that's not that bad. But still, people are freaking out about this. Now, granted, the cost of living in San Diego is out of control, but water really isn't the main reason. I mean, if your bill goes up 12 bucks a month or 20 bucks a month, I mean, some people are going to feel that pain, but housing, transportation, taxes, those are far greater expense on average everyday people. And to say nothing of, college tuition or a lot of other things, that you may or may not have to deal with, but everyone's got to deal with energy prices, gasoline, electricity. Housing in San Diego is insane expensive, largely because they've restricted development. That's where the problem is. Those are the areas that I think are more within our control to solve. And really water, if you think about it, the price per gallon of water is really, really cheap. I remember I looked into this and I was thinking, gosh, if there was a way to economically come up with ideas, on an individual basis to recycle your water, it'd be great. But a lot of times water is just so inexpensive that even if your bill goes up 10 bucks a month, is it worth it to invest in water recapturing systems and recycling systems on your own property when that investment's so expensive and the potential savings is so minimal? It's hard to do. But anyways, prices of water, San Diego going up a ton. What do you think about that? Let me know in the live chat on Facebook or YouTube. We'll get you involved in the San Diego Community Forum.